Hello again, YouTube. So this is going to be a continuation of my Abyss crafting series because apparently it's a series now. And in this one, I will be explaining exactly how you can make perfect endgame body armors for any sort of defense stat in the game, whether you are an evasion build, evasion ES build, or pure ES, or if you're playing armor like a psychopath, you will be able to make perfect prefixes and nearly perfect suffixes for whatever you want to make, as long as it is either a helmet, a body armor, a boot, or a glove. You will be able to make exactly what you want to make. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, before we begin, I do have a Discord and I have a guild in game. So, if you are a new player and you want a small community where you can ask your questions, where you can hang out with other people that are also new, just to feel a little bit less alone while playing this super painful of a game, then feel free to join the Discord from the link in the description and come say hi. That's all, and let's get into it. Okay, guys, a really quick, very important note to make here. So, in this entire video, and in previous videos, I've used Craft of Exile as my main source to find the item level types and the item tags for different stuff. But I was informed after I had already recorded everything that Craft of Exile is not fully up to date on what it's showing. For example, so a friend of mine was trying to hit tier 1, tier 2 life, and Craft of Exile says that tier 2 life is item level 44, so he can use one of the big bones, ancient bones, to guarantee this spawn because that rolls above 40. But PoE2DB actually says that it's tier 3 and above is 40, not tier 2. So he basically got scammed because Craft of Exile was selling the wrong thing and he hit tier 3 and then he had to go again. So be careful of that. Every single thing that I talk about in this video still applies perfectly, but if you are trying to make your crafts based on whatever kind of thing you want to make, use PoE2DB instead. You will go over here, you'll click on modifiers, and again, it will show you all the items. Then you click whatever base type. Let's say you want to make a strength, not strength int boot. You click that, and then it'll automatically show you every single modifier that can roll on strength int boots. So these are the prefixes, these are the suffixes. You will also see if there are any special prefixes or suffixes for desecration. So these are the special ones. For suffixes, there are no special prefixes. It's just the baseline prefixes for desecration on this space at least. So that's it. Don't use Craft of Exile. Use PoE2DB. Completely ditch this website fully. Don't use it for anything. Only use PoE2DB. I wish there was another way. The overlay interface for PoE2DB is kind of confusing, but it's just what we have, unfortunately. Okay, so a quick note on how to find the perfect base for you to craft on, because many of you don't really know which base types there are, which base type to use, what's the best base type for whatever build you're trying to play. So you go over to PoE2DB and you click on items, and you'll see here every single item base for every single thing that exists. You can ignore the claws, daggers, flares, whatever, those aren't in yet. So let's say you wanted to craft some boots. So we go into boots and you go into item, not unique. And here, let's say you wanted to make some evasion energy shield boots, and this will show you every single evasion energy shield boot in the game, right? So you can see here, down the list, the last one, this has the highest amount of evasion and ES. It's a Daggerfoot shoe. Before that is Quick Slip and whatever. If you wanted to, let's say, only see energy shield, it gets a bit confusing because it will show you everything that has energy shield. So Armour ES, evasion ES, everything. So you will have to sort of sort through until you can find the highest ES base, like here, 75. Second highest, Sekima Sandals is the highest at 82. However, certain item types are a bit more confusing, like body armors, for example. If I go over here in the type evasion rating, you will see that it actually stops over here at the mail coat, and then the actual highest evasion rating base is all the way down here at right around here, Slip Strike West. So it actually skips a lot of bases and then randomly slaps them back in the middle over here. So it can be confusing. You have to scroll through until you can find the highest one. So there is no real way to sort this list. You just have to do it that way. Okay, another thing about finding the right base for your craft on are a thing called exceptional bases. It's a thing that GGG added in this patch. It's new, and you can't really search for them manually on trade, so you have to input the stats yourself. So these bases have an extra socket on them without them being corrupted. So if I was to search for boots, let's say I wanted Evasion ES boots, I go Evasion ES, 2 rune sockets, not corrupted, and then if I search that, you'll see that these boot bases have 2 sockets and they're not corrupted. That means I can later on corrupt these for 3 sockets, or I can just keep the 2 sockets, right? Which is pretty potent for a lot of stuff. And these do get expensive, but it depends on which base you're trying to buy. So here, this is a normal boot base, and I would have to manually Orb of Transmute, perfect Orb of Transmute, obviously, because these are super expensive bases, to try to get something that I want on this. But if I didn't want an Evasion ES base, let's say I wanted a pure evasion base, right? If I do that, then the cost goes down because fewer people are using these bases. They're less popular, so there's more of them available, so they're cheaper. Similarly, if I was to not care about the stats on the base at all and I just wanted 2 rune sockets, then this gets super cheap. The Armour bases or the Armour ES bases are extremely cheap. No one in the entire game is playing Armour ES. So these are basically free. Same with Armour and Evasion. These are super, super cheap. So you can just spam these on a low budget and just Orb of Transmute them until you hit a good prefix and Orb of Augmentation them, you get a good suffix, and then you can start your crafting from there based on what I show you later on. So, however, if you do want to craft on a big Evasion ES base, then you would probably want to use higher tier currencies. The video I'm making currently is a mid-tier one, but everything that I explain in this video can and will be used the exact same way on these bases as well, but I am using greater exalts. You will probably be using perfect exalts to guarantee that you don't waste your base and have to go again. So that's the only difference. Alright, to start off, we are going to be working on the body armor first, but before I start on that, a lot of you actually struggle with how to actually find a magic base to use to start crafting on. So, in order to do that, you have to go over to the trade sites, and you want to go over to the stat filter over here, and you want to click this button, and you want to click count 1. Okay, and then you want to put in whatever prefixes that you want on your item in this part. So I want to make a evasion and ES base. So I want 3 different mods, 2 different mods actually. So I either want percent evasion and ES, or I want big flat evasion and ES. So I'm going to put in all of that. You have to put these 2 in separately, even though the same mod. And then you want to type in the base that you want to get to start crafting on. If there is no specific base that you want, if you just want any base to start crafting on, if you're in the early game, for example, or in the mid game, you can just put your requirements over here. So evasion and ES. And then you also, if you want suffixes, you do the same thing again. You add a stat group, count 1, and then you add whatever suffixes you want. So let's say you want any res. So you select all the 3 resistance types. Let's say you want recharge rate on your body armor. Maybe you want that, right? So you do all of that, and then you select a body armor name. So I want a sleek jacket for mine, and then you hit search, right? And this will show you all the sleek armors that exist. But in order to show magic ones only, you go over here to item rarity, and then you go magic, and then you click search. And then this will then show you everything that's magic. And then you just want to click this up here, either evasion rating or yes, it doesn't matter for this base because it's hybrid. You click that, and then it'll show you the highest possible base. So here, don't go for that one. Obviously, that has 2 sockets. That is a dumb guy selling it for an overpriced number. Ignore that. But then we have these bases over here, 50 eggs for this one, 80 for this one, Now, these are more expensive because this is the best evasion ES base. However, if I just scroll down a little bit, I will see that if it's not a perfectly maxed roll thing, then the price can be way, way lower than the other bases. There's 15 eggs. If I go lower again, I'll find 30 eggs. There's going to be many slipped in here. So just go on trade. Don't buy the thing that shows up at the top. Don't scam yourself. If the bases with percent evasion and ES are still too expensive for you, you can just remove that line altogether and then just go for the base that has big flat evasion and ES instead. That will be cheaper sometimes, like 30, 45, overall cheaper. But then it still doesn't matter in the end because the steps that we are taking to craft this will still be the same. Everything will still apply in the exact same way, and you will see exactly how in a moment. So just go ahead, buy your base, and then we can move on to the next step. All right, so the next step is going to be to grab your ingredients. So you will need one Sinister Exaltation Omen, which says your next Exalted Orb will only add prefixes. You will need an Omen of Greater Exaltation, which says your next Exalted Orb will add 2 random modifiers. And then you will need an Omen of Homogenizing Exaltation. Now, this is the slightly expensive one. This is now 60x at the time of recording this. And this says, while this item is active in your inventory, your next Exalted Orb will add a modifier of the same type as an existing modifier on the item. Now, this is very important. So, in order to craft any body armor, right, and I'm assuming you want to craft a body armor that does not have life on it, right? You only want as much evasion or ES or armor or evasion and ES as possible, right? So that is why we get a base with a prefix that has evasion and ES, and that's it. For the suffix, it can be whatever, because if you go back to the site, here we can see that evasion and ES has a defense tag, defense tag, defense tag, right? So that is why we want to use a base that has that, and none of the suffix tags, regardless if it's elemental res, if it's attributes, if it's whatever, none of these tags match any of these tags except life regen, obviously. So we don't want life regen on our suffix. That's a trash tier mod anyway. So that is why the suffix, it doesn't really matter. You just get whatever you want on the suffix. And then body armor, the prefix, you just go for defense. And that is why when you homogenizing exalt this, it'll only slam other defense tagged modifiers. Now, on that note, how do you ensure that this slams high tier defense mods? Well, you can't. You cannot. So with that, the problem is that you will have to use perfect exalted orbs to try to ensure that you get a modifier that is above level 50. Greater exalts give you above 35. Now, if you didn't see my previous video, you will get confused about what a modifier level is, but essentially it's just the minimum level that it needs to roll that modifier. So if I was to use a greater exalt on this base, I would, let's say, where's the flat? So flat, yeah, if I used a greater exalt, it would give me above this. So I can hit tier 5 hybrid flat evasion NES, tier 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on and so forth. But if I use a perfect exalt, then I'm guaranteed that I'm going to get one of these 3. So tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, one of those. Right? That is why perfect exalts are super expensive, because they basically guarantee that you get something really good out of it. Same thing here. If I go over to the hybrid, I can get tier 2 or tier 1 hybrid percent and flat if I use a greater, and I can get tier 4 or tier 3 if I use a greater, perfect before, greater now. Right? So that's why perfects are better. But it just purely depends on how much your budget is going to be for these items. Now you saw I bought this one for 15x, right? So if I was to just use the homogenizing exalt and this and this and this greater exalt, all of these things combined plus the base is around 90x, right? If I was to use a perfect exalt, those are going for around 150 to 200 eggs. Then it goes up to almost 300 eggs. It is way more expensive and it's not worth it to use on this base. I would recommend to use that on a exceptional base. If you don't know what those are the bases that can go up to 3 sockets without corrupting and can go up to 4 if you corrupt. These are not that. These are just the basic normal bases. So I'm not going to be using perfects because that's for the endgame crafting, for super endgame. So for now, I'm just going to grab my Homogenizing Exalt. Oh, not yet. First, we have to essence this. My bad. First, we have to essence it. It doesn't matter what essence you use, just use whatever resistance that you're missing. So it can be lightning, cold, fire, chaos, whatever. I'm really hurting on lightning res, so I'm going to do that. Boom. Lightning res, there we go. And then you want to, you can bone your suffix, sure, but I would just say to do your prefixes first, just so you can be done with them. And if it doesn't hit something, if it hits something super bad, you don't have to waste your bone on the suffix. Okay, so Homogenizing Exalt, Greater Exalt, Sinister Exalt to only add prefixes, right-click the Exalt, and then left-click your base and hope to see those evasion and ES numbers go super high. Let's see. Okay. We hit tier 2 flat percent hybrid, and we hit tier 3 of the other percent hybrid. So that's pretty sad. That I will admit that is sad because you ideally really want to hit the flat, because now if I quality this base up, it's not going to be as good as if it would have been if there was more flat on it. However, it is still a pretty good base with tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 defense prefixes. But that's basically it. I can do that again on the other base, and I will. All right, forgot the Homogenizing Exalt. So Homo Exalt, Sinister Exaltation, Greater Exaltation, Essence it first, and then Greater Exalt. So we basically hit the nuts this time. So you can see here, look at the difference between the two. Right, so here we have 796 evasion, 301 ES. Here we have 395 evasion, 360 ES. And the difference in those numbers is because of the big flat tier 1 evasion rating and ES that we got on this base. So that's the juicy stuff. That's what you want to hit ideally. If I also hit the percent hybrid that I have on this one, on that base, then this could have been a GG super good one. Well, this is still like almost just as good. So I'm pretty damn happy with this. Now, this one is I'm going to sell that to someone else and they can use that. But I'm going to focus on this one now. Okay, because now this one is just about done. There's just one suffix left and you know what to do now. So now I don't even need to use the Dextral Necromancy. That aside, there's only one open mod on there, so it's gonna use that one. Boom, suffix, and I will be using a reroll Omen because I don't want to break the base. Go over here, put it in, enable the Omen, click reveal. So here it just depends what you want on your final suffix. I really want res. These three are literally like, what am I even looking at? So reroll, these three. What am I looking at? Like, really? I didn't hit res even once. That's depressing. Very depressing. But I guess I'm just gonna have to Omen of Light this afterwards. So that's fine. I'm going to bone this too, just because I can, because I feel like it. So I'm gonna bone this too. Bone, put it in, but I'm not gonna reroll anything. I'm just gonna click reveal. The game really hates me today, huh? The game really hates me today, huh? Well, that's fine. Someone else can fix this on their own afterwards. I'm not going to do it. So here, I'm just going to take what would people want. I don't think anyone wants any three of these combinations. I'm just going to take this. And now you have a very good suffixes, a very good prefixes, and two very good suffixes and one diarrhea suffix. But that's basically it, right? There we go. There's your base is done. Body armor is done. Now we can move on to the next one. All right, so for the helmets, I am referring back to what I said earlier about exceptional bases. This is the first exceptional base that we're going to be working on because this is super cheap. It's an evasion ES base, but no one is using evasion ES for helmets because of this note on the tree right here, which says 2 evasion rating per 1 ES on the equipped helmet. This can give you like a 1000 evasion rating from your helmet, so that's very, very potent. But since my build can't really reach that, so I want an evasion ES helmet. That's why these are super cheap. No one's using them. That's for the magic version with some mods on them. And even the normal version is even cheaper. So I manually bought these until I hit my desired prefix. So in the game right now, I have this right here. I hit hybrid evasion ES with mana on it. That is one mod, not 2 of them. And with cold res, so that's where I'm going to be starting. This was super easy to hit. I hit this, I think, on my second try. Yeah, this is the first one I hit. This was bigger hybrid evasion ES and crit chance. I don't really want crit chance. I need res on my helmet. So that's why I'm going with this one. And you're going to be asking me, why is there mana on this? What happens if we have mana? Because when we homogenizing Exalt, if you remember now, that is supposed to take the tags and slam something that has the same tag, right? Well, yes, but the thing with that is that if we go over to Craft of Exile again, and we go over to the helmets and the Dexint helmet, and you will see that yes, while this does have the mana tag now because it's hybrid evasion ES and mana, if I use an homogenizing exalt with the double exalt, it will have to slam something that has slammed 2 things with mana on it, and those don't exist. There aren't any 2 modifiers with mana, there's 1. So it can't select that. Because when it goes to select the mod, it'll go, okay, this user has selected the homogenizing exalt, so I can only slam something that already exists on the item. So it's going to see that there is a defense tag mod, a mana tag mod, and a cold res tag mod, right? Cold res is irrelevant. None of that can roll the prefix anyway because we're forcing a prefix. So it goes, okay, I can't look at these tags. I can't slam any of these tags because they don't exist on the prefix. Then it'll choose between mana and defense. It'll look at mana and it'll go, okay, the user has also selected greater exaltation omen, which makes so you have to slam 2 mods of the same type. So if I select mana, are there 2 mods for mana? 1, but there's no 2. So it'll go, okay, I can't slam that, never mind. Then it can only slam something that has those 2 mods. So in this case, and in all cases for body armors and helmets and everything of this sort, it will always select defense. Now it can select hybrid life as well. So as it did on the body armor, that's fine because we just want that to just be evasion ES and not flat mana or flat life. So that's why I'm using this base. And I like the mana because I'm Archmage, so any extra bit of mana actually helps me. Okay, so pretty easy steps now. You've already seen this for the body armor. It's exactly the same. I'm going to Essence with Fire Res because I need Fire Res. So boom, there's the Essence. And then come the Homogenizing Exalt with the Greater Exaltation and the Prefix Exalt to make sure that it only hits prefixes. So triple Exalt. I'm using Greater again because again these bases are super cheap. Even though I said in the beginning that when you're using an exceptional base, you will be using perfect exalts. But since this base is super cheap and this is a cheaper one, I don't need to. If I miss this, I can just go again. But a perfect exalt is just very expensive, and I wouldn't recommend using it. Like it is literally worth almost thrice as much as a homogenizing exalt. So I can literally do this 3 times before it's going to be worth it for 1 greater exaltation. So that's why, perfect exaltation, I mean. So there you go. Now, hopefully this hits the big percent evasion ES and big flat evasion ES, and I will be a happy camper. So again, prefix, this, boom. Okay, so I hit tier 3 on the percent, but that's still pretty good. I hit tier 1 on the flat, and I'm pretty happy with this. This is a total of, I slammed around 110, 100-ish eggs worth of slams there, and this is now a Giga helmet. Last step is to just bone that final suffix, and then go and unveil it. All right, here we are, the unveiling step, the step that has plagued me for my entire existence. So be sure to click the Omen, reveal. Now I want to hit, ideally, rarity here. That's what I want. Because I really like rarity. I did not get rarity because the game just doesn't like me. It just doesn't like me. I will have to Omen of like this to clean that up afterwards. Unfortunate, but hey, it's still Good helmet, can't be messed up with. So far, I haven't hit a single reroll on my first try, so that's just depressing. My game is lagging out. Alright, I feel the unwheel so hard, my game crashed. But hey, there we go. Dex, I will Omen of Light that later on. I did Omen of Light my body armor, as you can see, and I hit my res. So I did that, and now I have to do the same thing for this, but you get the point, right? Alright, so boots, exactly the same thing. Same search, count, boots, evasion ES for me. Sort it by highest ES, and then you just go and pick a base. So certain times you'll see that this base, for example, has 100% evasion in ES and fire res for 35x, but if I was to just scroll down a tiny bit, 98 evasion ES is 10x. 2% difference for a 25x difference is quite a lot. So do with that what you will. This is 15x for 99% with fire res. So it's just a matter of, do you want to do it? Do you want to spend like an extra bit for 1%, or do you not? It's up to you. Okay, so I have my base here, 99% evasion ES with rarity, because who doesn't like rarity? And so the boots are going to be ever so slightly different than the body armor and the helmet. And that's because we want movement speed as one of the prefixes, right? Because we can't live without movement speed. So what we're going to do is we are going to lightning res this first, because I want my res. So you can pick whatever res you want. So lightning res, it's rare now. Okay, so since we want movement speed on our boots, there are two different ways that we can go about this. The first one is we bone the prefix and try to reroll the movement speed using the desecration. Now that can hit up to 30%. It can roll lower, 10%, 20%, but we can do that. And then the final prefix, we will be using Homogenizing Exalts anyway for the final one. And then the final suffix will just be YOLO Exalt slamming for a final suffix. Or we can use a Omen of Dextral Crystallization, which will guarantee that the next perfect or corrupted essence we use will only remove a suffix. So it will remove either the rarity or the lightning res, and we combine that with the movement speed corrupted essence, which guarantees 30% movement speed, which it is kind of very expensive though. So I wouldn't recommend it exactly for the budget craft. I would just recommend to use the bone, but that is another option you can go for, especially if these at any point drop in price. If you do go for this essence, then you will have your prefixes be 30% movement speed along with the hybrid evasion ES or whatever hybrid you have. And then you will homogenizing exalt the final prefix, and then you will have two open suffixes because we removed one with the crystallization omen. You will bone one of those suffixes, and then you will YOLO exalt the last suffix. So the only difference between these two setups is that your omen can hit lower movement speed, which you will have to Omen of Light to remove, or it can just not hit movement speed at all, like it missed on my body armor and my helmet before this. So that's the problem. But since this is way cheaper to do, and these boot bases are extremely cheap, as you saw, so I'm going to do it this way, because the expensive step is the homogenizing exalt, and that is going to be after the bone reveal anyway, so it's completely fine. So I'm going to now prefix bone my boot, prefix Omen, bone, there. So now we have that. And now I'm going to go unveil first. So here we are, and we are unveiling the boot mod before we homogenizing exalt, unlike other bases. Why are we doing that? Because for boots, the thing is that the movement speed mod that we're trying to unveil is completely separate. There is no other speed modifier that can roll on your boots. So the homogenizing exalt will still pick the evasion and ES afterwards. The reason why I didn't do this on the other bases and I'm doing it over here is because the exalt is expensive. This omen and the boot base is super cheap. So if I miss the movement speed here, I am going to toss these boots into the void and I'm going to go again because it's going to cost me way more to Omen of Light this and do it again rather than me just going to buy a new base. So that note, unveil and hopefully hit movement speed. I did not hit movement speed. I reroll. So here I hit 15% movement speed. So that is pretty bad, right? Most people, they don't want 15. They really want 30, right? So I am going to instead select the hybrid here, because this space, as I said, I'm going to delete. I'm not going to use this space unless something else happens. So in this case, specifically, this will only really work on your boots because you can't really do this way on your other bases. Since I now have this as my base, I can do something else. I don't need to use the Omen. I don't need to use this Omen. I can just use my 2 greater exalts here to see if I can naturally slam movement speed on these boots. If I do that, then I'm happy. If I don't do that, then, well, crying emoji. But anyway, here we go. So I hit cold res, so that's pretty giga on the suffix, but now I have to hit movement speed on the prefix. Go. Well, these are now dead. I didn't hit movement speed, very sad. These could have been very good boosts if I hit them, but now we go again. Okay, here we are, we're back on the same step. So this is the base, boom. I prefix bone, boom. I put it in, reroll Omen, reveal. There we go, much better. I had tier 1 life and tier 1 movement speed. I don't need tier 1 life, so the Omen was useless here, but it's fine. So movement speed, done. Got that. And now the next steps are basically pretty simple. Omen of Homogenizing, Omen of Sinister Exaltation for a prefix, and a Greater Exalt. Hopefully I hit big flat. Prage. Tier 1 flat, there we go. So prefixes are done, and now the final suffix will just be a YOLO Exalt, same as the other one. Boom. Well, that's a trash tier suffix, but this still is a very good boot that many people will use, can sell this, can use this. It's better than mine currently. It's just about the same as mine, with way better evasion ES and stun threshold, I guess. Anyway, boots done. There you go. Okay, so for the final step, the gloves are actually going to be a little bit different. And that is because so far you all know that we have been homogenizing, exalting the prefixes, and the suffixes don't really have any matching tags with the prefixes, but now for gloves, they do. Because if we have any res on our suffix, it will hit one of the flat damage to attacks. And if you want a big flat damage glove, then you can skip the evasion rating and defense and then just go for res on your suffix and then nothing on your prefix, and then you just homogenizing exalt your prefix, and then you will get 2 big flat damage to attacks. So there you go, that'll give you 3 basically. It can also accuracy rating, so you'll have to be careful of that, but it'll have a higher chance of hitting one of these, because way more tags combining with your res. But anyway, for now though, since I'm crafting evasion rating gloves and defense-based gloves, I want to have no tags on my item instead of just defense or anything else. So for that reason, we're going to be finding an item that only has evasion rating and no suffix. Now, that can be a bit difficult to do because most people, they just fully slam an item. But here, for example, this is an item that the person did not slam an augmentation orb on. So this is just the prefix. This is exactly what we want here. So I am going to pick this up. I already have one in game, but this is what I would pick up. So here in game, I have a base. It is 94%, but it is overqualityed, so it's basically the same thing. You can also, if you can't find any of these on trade, you can buy normal items and just transmute them to get the base you want. Super easy. You can hit it like 1 in 3 if you use perfect transmutes, so it's very, very easy to do. But you will find these on trade anyway. So once you're at this step, the next few steps are pretty simple. You want to use a rarity essence to make your item into a rare. So no other suffix, just rarity. There we go. And then what you will do is exactly the same thing as before, which is using your homogenizing exalts with your sinister exalt for prefixes and your double exalt. So you add 2, and then there's nothing else to it. You just pray that this hits big flat and big other hybrid. Boom. So here I had tier 1 of the flat, and then hybrid tier 3. Pretty good. That's basically almost just, I'm I'm hitting a trend here of tier 1, tier 3 on basically everything so far. Okay. Yeah, almost everything. So that's it for the prefixes. For the suffix, it's pretty simple. You buy yourself another greater exalt.
Right away.
Hopefully that goes through in a sec. You will bone the suffix. You don't need to use an omen here. That's the only open slot. Bone it. And then the final suffix will, as it was with the boot, it'll just be a pure RNG. Can't really control that one. Hopefully I hit res here or I hit crit damage bonus. Those two would be ideal. But boom, I hit mana per enemy killed. That's again another unfortunate suffix that I hit, but it's whatever. If you wanted to hit an ideal suffix, you would have had to use the unveil first, get a res, and then homogenizing exalt. So that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And now it's unveil time, our favorite time, because now is the time when the game decides to shaft me repeatedly. All right, here we go. I want to hit something decent. Let's see. So here we hit crit damage bonus, and we hit intelligence, no one wants that, and we had lightning and chaos res. So I am going to take the lightning and chaos res, I suppose, because, well, I just am. Or maybe I'll take crit damage. I'll do a quick check on trade which one of these gloves are going to be more worth it, because I'm going to be selling these because I really need res. But yeah, so quick search. I want a higher tier crit damage bonus, or I want a res, so I'm going to reroll this. Well, that's actually much better. +1 level wall melee skills is probably going to be the way I sell this, so I'm going to take that. So that's your defense glove base done. Five mods on it, not 6, unfortunately. But if you want to get some major, big, flat damage gloves instead, well, the process for that would be to start on a base with fizz damage to attacks, highest tier possible, and lightning res, because you Denized, you want flat lightning, right? So you'll do that, and then you will use a rarity essence to, again, add only the rarity tag, nothing else. You can also add attributes if you need them, rarity tag, and then you will homogenizing exalt the prefixes again, and here you have a few different outcomes that can happen. Either you roll damage, right, damage, and the only other damage prefix that can roll are lightning and fire and cold, or you will roll elemental here, which again can give you this, this, or this, or the bad one is you roll attack. That fizz damage to attacks is an attack modifier. So if you roll that on your item, then you have a chance to roll accuracy rating as one of the prefixes that your homogenizing exalt can slam. So that would be unfortunate. To avoid that, you would be instead getting a base that has no prefix on it, literally none. Okay, and then you will only take lightning res as your only suffix, and then you will use a rarity essence to make that into a rare, right? And then you will homogenizing exalt the prefix. Then the only thing you can hit is going to be two flat damages to attack, and then the third one you will get using a prefix bone, and then the final suffix you will just YOLO exalt slam. I'm not going to do that craft because you already know how to craft your gloves now. Exact same process as what I just showed, but instead of defense and getting the evasion rating on the prefix, you'll just get a lightning res on the prefix suffix and nothing else, and just go about it that way. So there you go, gloves now done. All right, so there we go. Helmet, body armor, boots, gloves, all done. A full gear set for any build that you want to play. So pure armor, pure evasion, pure ES, any sort of hybrid evasion ES, hybrid armor ES, if you're weird, hybrid whatever, you can apply the exact same rules. The tags and everything applies to everything. So that's done here. Now, a point that some people will obviously make is why spend all the time learning these crafts and getting the omens and risking the RNG when you can just go and buy the item off of trade anyway? Well, to address that, I spent under 100x per item here. The base cost me like 2x, 5x, sometimes 10x, depending if I wanted to go super nice on the base. And then The tinier omens cost like 5 eggs, at most 5 to 6 eggs. The bones cost like 2 eggs. The only expensive omen is the Homo omen, which goes from somewhere between 60 to 100 eggs. It's pretty big price range. It just depends on if there's a big streamer that's crafting that needs to buy a lot of them because he keeps missing his triple tier 1. I'm not going for triple tier 1, so that's irrelevant. So that's the thing there. If I was to buy these off of trade, an armor with 1310 evasion with 496 ES and double res with faster start of ES recharge, those 3 things on the suffixes with those prefixes will cost somewhere between 10 to 20 div, maybe even more, I haven't checked. Boots with triple tier 1 almost, with tier 2 movement speed, could have been tier 1 if the item level was 82. With rarity, lightning res, and I can fix the stun threshold with an Omen of Riddling at any point. Gloves, these gloves don't even exist with this much evasion and ES. With melee skills and rarity, this will also go for a super high amount with all that evasion and ES. Haven't even put sockets into any of these yet. Helmet, same thing. Double tier 1 with tier 3. Really good helmet with double res and an Omen slot that I'll be fixing with rarity afterwards. So all of that stuff is super good. And then another small point, you're going to be like, oh, what if you miss the Desecrate and you have to use an Omen of Light? Even then, these bases will still be so much better than any base that you can find on trade for the same prices. So that is why it's good to craft, and it's also fun for some people. It's fun for me, might not be fun for you. If you want to map and farm the currency to just go and directly buy these, you can. But if I was to directly buy all of these gear pieces, I would have had to spend all of my currency just on the body armor, and then I would have none left for the gloves, boots, and the helmet, and I have to go farm more until I can get the rest. Alright, so that is it, and that is all. Armor is now officially done, and in the next few videos, I will be going over the bow, the rings, the amulet, and the belt, all in separate videos because they all have separate rules that apply to them. Amulet and rings are kind of the same. Belt is a little bit different. Weapons are way different and quivers are way different. So those will all have separate videos on them, because if I did that here, it would get insanely long and insanely confusing and just information overload for someone who's very new to this. So I don't want to just break your brain trying to explain all that. So for now, this is all. I hope you guys make some super sexy armors. If you do, tell me about them in the comments. Ask me questions if you got confused at any point. And if you want, you can join my Discord and or my guild and link me your items there. So there you go. That's it. And bye-bye. And a quick shout out to my patrons, Marcus, Axel Jacobs, and that one anonymous guy who doesn't want to be named. Pretty sure he's Voldemort. But thank you guys. I really, really appreciate you. Words cannot ever describe it. So thank you, and see you next time.